So how much home can we afford, Scott? That's our topic, right?
Let's talk about that, because a lot of people are concerned about home affordability in Arizona, which I understand. There's a big difference between that $457,000 house and a $170,000 house. But in today, with home prices where they're at and rates where they're at, people want to know how much home can they afford for the salary that they make.
All right, well, let's talk about it.
Hi, I'm Kenny Klaus, and this is State 48 Homeowner.
Hey, my friend, welcome back to the State 48 Homeowner Podcast. And today we're here with Steve Farrington with Unity Home Loans, and we're talking about how much home can you afford?
How much home can you afford, Scott? How are you, brother?
Excellent.
Awesome.
So before we dive into that, let's talk about why we want to own versus rent.
Well, so many reasons, but the number one reason that we promote a lot is that homeownership is a great builder of wealth.
Yeah.
In America. I mean, what are we talking? Most homeowners, the net worth is 40 times greater than those that rent.
Yeah, just consistently, we look at the numbers as they come in year over year over year over year.
And you're right. It's been consistent every time that report comes out every year over the last 7 to 10 years since they've been doing this report, that just homeownership is huge. The percentage of net worth that you have over renting a home. And of course, Americans agree.
Yeah. And when you look at people say, okay, what's the best way to build wealth?
I'm going to get stocks. I'm going to buy some bonds. I'm going to get gold, right?
21% say cash. Let me just build a big, huge suitcase full of cash. I don't know how that works. But
so the number one though is?
Yeah, number one is 45%. And you know that a lot of people are just thinking, okay, I'm just going to put money into my retirement account.
Sure.
And a lot of people think that that's the best way that they're going to do. And a lot of renters, that's the whole goal of building for their retirement. But only 16% of Americans believe that that's the best way to build their wealth.
Right. And so obviously homeownership, not only the stats back it up, but also opinion.
Yeah.
Of most Americans. And again, you're seeing it today when you're talking about baby boomers, who are one of the largest generations. Most of their wealth is through home equity that they've built up over time.
Yeah.
So again, history just continuously proves our point that homeownership is a win.
Yeah. And for the people that start early enough, what you'll see is they'll start with one home.
Right.
And they'll add on as they move on.
Build a portfolio?
They'll build a portfolio.
Right. Well, and that always helps. And I mean, there's other benefits besides just wealth. I mean, that's not the only reason to own a home, right? I mean, you and I both have children. You know, it's one of the main reasons you've got a place to raise your family.
You build a community. You got friends in the neighborhood. You get to paint the walls.
Yeah, the freedom to customize. I mean, that's huge. You don't dependent on a landlord anymore. It's a forced savings plan. I mean, all the things that I like as a finance guy, you've got a forced savings plan. So I'm paying 7% interest rate, Steve. But still a portion of that payment every month goes into a forced savings plan, meaning the equity that you're building because you're paying down some of that principal, coupled with the appreciation that you're seeing, which is historic rates are about 4.5% to 5% over 60 years here in Arizona. Yeah. The other reasons why, I mean, there's tax advantages.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we like best, and I think we've got some graphics on that, is a stable monthly payment.
Yeah, let's talk about that. Now, if you are planning to move every 2 years,
right?
Rent,
right?
Rent.
100%.
If you're gonna do that, but if you're planning to stay a little while, let's look at just what happens over 15 years.
Okay.
So we look back 15 years. So
2009.
2009. So June of 2009, we looked in Augusta Ranch, which is a neighborhood in Mesa, Arizona.
Yeah.
And so we looked at what is a nice starter home. So a 3-bed, 2-bath, 1,700 square foot house.
Okay.
And so back then, that went for $170,000.
Right. But you got to remember, though, that house maybe 3 or 4 years earlier was maybe valued a little bit more. So that $170,000 was 2009. We had already gone through the crash, the crisis.
Yeah.
So again, value had dropped, but again, so now you're at the base of 170,000. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you're talking now you're at 170,000 in 2009. You're buying this home. Rates back then probably what, 5.5?
5.5.
Yes,
Yeah.
5.5. I remembered. So 5.5 is where interest rates were, and your payment was probably right around.
That payment was $1,071.
There's probably a lot of people right now going, "Oh, man, I missed it."
Now, Steve, what happens when you get a mortgage on a 30-year fixed mortgage?
Fixed, okay. Now, if we're talking a fix, so we're talking this payment, guess what? Over 30 years, that payment stays $1,071. And now, of course, there are some factors that play into it. Your homeowner's insurance can go up a little bit.
Taxes, insurance.
But the consistency of that principal and interest over a 30-year fix, so you buy this home over 30 years, it's consistent. It doesn't go up.
Unless you're going to refinance or do something like that. But let's just assume that this person never refinanced.
Sure.
They kept it the same.
100%.
So we also looked at, back then, what rents went for the same comparable house.
Okay, so what did it rent for?
A 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square foot house in that same neighborhood. And we found one just exactly like it.
All right.
And it was renting for $1,100.
In 2009.
In 2009. So about
comparable.
the same. $30 difference.
$30 difference between your mortgage payment and your rent payment. So what happened to my rent?
It went up slightly. So that rent payment today for that exact same house is $2,195.
So doubled.
Yeah.
Okay.
Doubled over 15 years. So let's talk about the value that changed. So, the rent doubled, whereas the mortgage payment stayed the same. So it was a fixed cost versus the rent is a variable cost.
Okay. So how much value does my homeowner now have in that property?
Well, let's talk about the rent.
Okay.
The rent, that net worth increase for the renter was zero. Because they were just paying the rent the whole time, but they didn't enjoy any value increase.
No appreciation.
So understand, we have a housing cost. Everybody has a housing cost.
Right.
So that's not going to change.
Right.
Whether you're renting or you're buying, you still have a housing cost.
100%.
The difference is the housing cost for the person who buys is also an investment.
Right.
And so the difference between the renter who has a net worth of zero from that housing cost, the purchaser, now that value went from $170,000 to $457,000 in 15 years.
$280,000.
$287,000 net worth increase over that time.
Just from appreciation. Now, is that just appreciation alone, or did you take into account the amortization of the build, buy down, and equity?
That was just
appreciation alone and the value of that property, which is key. So over 15 years, as your payment increases, that's going to add to that value. So that's tremendous.
The Klaus team is different. With the Klaus team, you have someone on your side. Where you live and make memories is important. We have more unique strategies than anyone else to help you accomplish what matters most to you. We can help you with traditional real estate as well as other options such as our lease purchase programs. We can help you buy first then sell, and we can bring you instant offers. We're here to help our neighbors achieve the American dream and help them build wealth through home ownership. For more info or to start your home search, visit us online at klausteam.com.
So how much home can we afford, Scott? That's our topic, right?
Let's talk about that, because a lot of people are concerned about home affordability in Arizona, which I understand. There's a big difference between that $457,000 house and a $170,000 house. But in today, with home prices where they're at and rates where they're at, people want to know how much home can they afford for the salary that they make.
All right, well, let's talk about it. And we've got some great listings here that you pulled up for me. So, and I ran the numbers. I did everything fairly consistent. There's one that I did a little bit different, trying to tie in a little bit to first-time home buyers. But let's talk about 875 South Nebraska Street.
Yeah, so this one's listed just under $350,000.
Okay.
It's a 2-bed, 2-bath. A little over 1,000 square feet.
And this is typically where we're going to see first-time home buyers in this price point. So we got a first-time home buyer. This one I ran first-time home buyer, 3% down. Yep. I just used a 7% 30-year fixed conventional loan. Conventional, again, being Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac. Total housing payment on this property was $2,599.49. So $2,599.49. That's all in. That's your P&I, your principal and interest, your loan payment. Your taxes, which we need to talk about, we'll come back to it. Homeowner's insurance, PMI, because you put less than 20% down, so I factored that in, and then an HOA, which all of these are fairly reasonable. But let's talk about taxes really quick, because property taxes is part of your overall housing payment, but Arizona's kind of sweet when it comes to property taxes, right?
State 48.
State 48.
So State 48, we are at 0.6% on average. So it differs based on the municipality.
Sure.
So some, Gilbert might be a little bit more expensive than Mesa. but on average 0.6%.
And where does that put us in the country?
Texas is going to be 1.6%, New Hampshire 1.8%, and Illinois 1.9%.
And just so people know, that 1.8 or 1.9%, that those two numbers you just referenced, that's based off the home valuation that the county assessor does. So that's almost 2%. So let's say a $300,000 home, you're going to have almost $6,000 a year in taxes.
Yeah, and if you're watching on YouTube, you can click on this video and hear our county assessor from Maricopa County talk about how that happens.
So this property alone, so we're talking about Nebraska Street. Let's go back to it really quick. The property tax in this house, $586 a year. So that's part of that payment. Again, that could adjust, it could assess. So when we're talking about this, let's go back. Our total housing payment for this listing, $340,000, first-time home buyer, 3% down, $67,000 a year would need to be the household income to qualify for that payment. Now, we're not going to take into account any other debt. So if you've got a car, student loans, credit cards, all of those things take into a factor. But let's just take the housing payment. And again, the way mortgage companies qualify people is we're using your gross annual income, and then we're going to take a percentage of that, and that's the maximum total debts that you can have, including the house payment and any other debts that you may have. So just on this house alone, your household income, so if there's more than one borrower, $67,000 a year. So how much do I have to make to afford Nebraska Street? $67K a year. Got it? All right.
All right, let's go to Mesa. Really cool neighborhood, Mulberry.
Nice neighborhood.
Oh yeah, tree-lined streets, Craftsman. All the houses look in the Craftsman elevation. This one is a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square feet. This is
what's our list on this one?
House. This one is just shy of 500, so $499,900.
Okay. So Nichols Avenue. So let's talk about this listing. This one, again, we're still kind of seeing first-time home buyers in this range. This still fits in the FHA allowable for Arizona. So I did this one on a 3.5% down payment, FHA loan. FHA is going to be a little bit cheaper than your conventional loans interest rate-wise.
Yeah.
So let's just say this person had a 720 credit score instead of a 760. So we're going to go FHA with them because now your interest rate is going to be closer to that 7% at about 6.75 today. Okay. Total housing on Nichols is going to be $3,791. So $3,791 a month. Again, that's total housing payment. We're talking taxes, insurance, HOA, PMI. So this property, you're probably going to have a household income of $97,000 to qualify for that housing payment for qualification purposes. So again, when we're talking almost $500,000, you're going to have a household income for qualifying about $97,000 a year.
All right, let's head to Augusta Ranch.
Augusta Ranch.
It's really, really close to Mulberry, by the way. You're just kind of going across the street. This is Lindner. This one is 4-bed, 2-bath, 1,800 square feet with a pool.
Okay.
Brand new roof. And this is a golf course lot on a 1/4 acre.
Okay. So almost a $600,000 property. So on Lindner, we did 5% down payment. Again, we're keeping all these kind of relative to what I'm seeing out there. So 5% down payment, 30-year conventional on this one, 7%. Total housing payment on this one is $4,366. And your income to qualify is going to have to be right around $120,000 a year. So now we're getting up there a little bit. And again, this is the effect of interest rates more so than anything else. But again, about $120,000 a year to afford Lindner for qualifying. Now again, I had to look at property taxes on this one. $1,900 a year for a $600,000 home.
Yeah.
Again, like we talked about, this is in Texas or somewhere else at 1.8, 1.9%. You're talking $6,000 a year.
And this is a really cool area too because you get Gilbert schools with Mesa taxes.
There you go.
All right, so for this one, we're going to stay in Augusta Ranch.
I'm seeing a trend.
It is. It's a popular neighborhood. This one's going to be another golf course lot.
Okay.
It's a 4-bedroom plus a loft, 3-bath, 3,269 square feet.
All right, so let's talk about Macedo. Did I say that right?
Yep.
All right, Macedo. So just under 750, which keeps us within that conventional loan limit. So thank you for doing that, by the way. It made my math easy. So we're talking Fannie Freddie, conventional 30-year fixed, 7% again, just to have a flat rate. about where we're seeing the averages, 5% down payment. Total housing payment on this one's a little bit more. So now we're talking you're up in that over $5,000. So total housing for this one was $54.50 a month. Again, that includes your HOA, taxes, PMI. And again, if you put more down, you can take out those PMI factors on any of the homes we talk about today, except for an FHA loan, which I think we had a different video on that. But again, so to qualify for this property at $54.50 a month total housing payment, your household income is going to have to be $150,000 a year or more. Okay. So that's what we're talking about when we're looking at these listings and how much home can I afford. And, when we talk to first-time home buyers, especially because they don't know, they've never owned a property. Maybe they're just into renting. So, I pulled some stats on what does a first-time home buyer look like today. So I was able to pull these from, economic sites. And so the typical first-time home buyer, and this is for 2023. So all of 2023 gave us some great data. So your typical first-time home buyer in 2023 was 31.8 years old. So 32 years old, which is what we see. That's the trend. That's a typical age for a first-time home buyer is about 32 years old. Median household income, and this is across the U.S., not just Arizona. Median household income was $97,000 a year. FICO score for qualifying was 728 on average. And the average down payment, because I hear this quite a bit, is, I don't have 20% down. The average down payment all first-time home buyers in 2023 was only $12,700.
And, that's something we've seen for quite a while. And that misnomer of 20% down has been a misnomer for a long time. And the number of people that have done 20% down most of those people are people that are taking the equity from a home already.
Exactly. That's what we're seeing a lot of it. People that have either not first-time home buyers. People that are
using the equity
they're transferring
from a home,
that wealth from property number 1 or 2 into their next home.
Or their investors.
But again,
and the only reason investors are doing that is because they have to.
average down payment then only $12,700. So again, 32 years old, $97,000 a year median income, 728 FICO score with $12,700 was your average down payment for 2023, all first-time home buyers. And first-time home buyers are huge. I mean, they make up 35% of all home buyers right now in the U.S. for 2024. And I think that trend's going to continue. And that's where we're seeing the trends ultimately in the real estate market is as that another large generation of millennials, they're now getting into that first-time home buyer range of 31.8 years old. But it's a fantastic thing, and I'm hoping people take away from this that, contact a real estate professional, contact a trusted, mortgage professional, home finance professional to talk about the numbers, because you don't know what you don't know. So I'm kind of hoping people can take from this that homeownership is going to be a great builder of wealth, that payment's consistent, and then you've got a home that you can kind of grow into. You can do what you want with. You could transition. The other thing to remember here is just like that other home, appreciate in value, is that most of these homes are going to continue to appreciate in value, but we're talking 7% interest rates. We're in a higher interest rate environment right now. And I'm not going to make any guarantees like I've done in this podcast in the past. But, even at 7% in the future, rates are going to be lower. So you're going to have an opportunity to take that payment and lower it from where it is today just by refinancing. Get rid of the PMI when you've got 20% equity in it. So if you can afford to get a home, I'm not saying it's easy, but if you can afford to get a home, if any of these homes and salaries work for you, give us a call.
So real quick, when people want to get started on that first pre-qualification, what are the things that they need?
Well, the number one thing you're going to need to do is talk to a real estate or a mortgage professional. Talk to them, call me. How about that? Just call me. I always like to have a hopes and dreams call because I want to see where you're at. So first step is call. Let's talk about it. Let's see where you're at. Let's see what your plans are. And then we can either taper those plans or say, yeah, that's going to work. But first step is always get pre-approved. Get an application filled out. Let's verify the income and assets because sure, maybe, hey, Steve, I make $80,000 a year, but maybe a portion of it is a certain pay that we need a history with, or we need to verify a little bit more. So before we send you out, let's make sure you're solid.
Okay.
Because it's a competitive market still,
Yep.
right?
It is.
And so that's really the first step. First step is always just talking to somebody about it. Because what we see a lot of, I shouldn't say a lot of, but we do see people will fall in love with something online. They'll find that home in Augusta Ranch or Mulberry or Power Ranch.
And if they fall in love with something, generally somebody else is too.
Somebody else is as well. But if you're not pre-approved and that somebody else is, your likelihood that you're going to miss out on it is 10 times greater.
Yeah.
I see it every day. So get pre-approved, talk to somebody like myself. Let's get your income, let's get your assets verified, and let's get you out shopping with one of our real estate pros here at Klaus Team, right?
And if you're ready for that, just reach out. Go to klausteam.com/first steps.
Awesome. Great to see you, Scott.
Take it easy.
Thanks for spending time with us this week at State 48 Homeowner, the ins and outs of owning an Arizona home. You can connect with us for more information, submit topics you'd like us to further discuss. You can see relevant videos, give us feedback, answer your real estate questions, and more at state48homeowner.com.